And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Thursday, April 17th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining. Between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers, we appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So, let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So, we're going to start off the show. We're going to recap the play-in games from last night, the Bulls and the Heat. The Heat picking up the win there, defeating the Bulls once again in the play-in tournament. Then we will get into talking about the Mavericks and the Kings and their game from last night as the Mavericks pick up the win in that matchup. And then in the second part of the show, we'll talk about the first-round matchups. What higher seeds have a chance of being upset in the first round? So we'll talk about that. We will also talk about the Giants holding some workouts for quarterbacks, mainly Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe, Tyler Show from Louisville. So we'll get into that as well. As, I watched a little bit of Joe Shane's recent press conference with the draft coming up. It's exactly a week from today, so we'll talk about what he had to say. Then we'll talk about Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is a big name that is still out there, and we'll talk about where he could potentially end up. He's still, unsigned. So, yeah, we will get into that. And then I apologize for the camera malfunction as usual. So, yeah, we'll get into that. And then in the final part of the show, we will get into talking about the AFC South. I will do my post-free agency rankings for that division. So, let's get into the first topic, which is discussing the play-in games from last night. So I went 2-0 on Tuesday, but I went 0-2 yesterday. I did pick the Bulls, and I picked the Kings to win yesterday because the Bulls have been playing some good basketball as of late. But I did go against Eric Spoelstra. I did go against this experienced Heat team, which although might not have star talent, well, I shouldn't say it doesn't have star talent, but doesn't have, Jimmy Butler. Really, I mean, they're minus Jimmy Butler. I just thought that, the Bulls were due maybe to win against the Heat this time around, and that was not the case. And for both games, both teams that won yesterday, if you think about this, both teams traded away star players that are currently higher seeds in the playoffs right now. Jimmy Butler going to the Warriors, Luka Doncic going to the Lakers. So, these teams, I mean, in all likelihood, yes, they both are going to be playing once again on Friday, but, they both traded away star players, and, it looked like, hey, they're not really going to do anything. I mean, but they're in a... Well, more so the Heat. Like the Mavericks, if they were healthy, they probably would have finished with a better record, even with them trading Luka. But they will be playing once again on Friday. The Heat will be playing against the Hawks, and the Mavericks will be playing against the Grizzlies. But both teams, they jumped out to big leads. The teams that won yesterday, they both jumped out to big leads that were too tough to overcome. The Heat scored 39 points in the first quarter. They outscored the Hawks by a wide margin in the first half. The Bulls did play better in the second half, a little bit better. They outscored the Heat 27-17 in the third quarter. But yeah, the Heat ended up winning 109-90. Tyler Hero, who, in his post-game interview, I mean, I barely recognized him because of the buzz cut, but he had a big night. 38 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 13 and 19 from the field. He went 9 of 10 from the free throw line, 3 of 7 from 3. They also got key contributions from Andrew Wiggins, who had 20 points. Bam Adebayo had a double-double. He had 12 rebounds and 15 points. And Davion Mitchell, who was being praised last night, had a great night, shooting 5 of 5 from the field, 2 of 2 from 3. Was playing very good defense on Kobe White. He had 9 assists last night. And then as for the Bulls, Kobe White did finish with 17 points. Josh Giddey had 25 points. Vucevic had 16. He had a double-double. He also had 12 rebounds. Kevin Huerter had 10 points. But yeah, the Bulls once again fall to the Heat in the play-in. And like I said, the Heat will move on. They will play the Hawks. Different kind of game coming up. Obviously, you got to now deal with Trae Young. But you know what? This is an experienced Heat team that's been there before. And they know that. You know, they came in focused. And, you know, they got a very good coach. And, you know, I should have taken the similar strategy like I did with the March Madness tournament, even though towards the end there it didn't really pan out like I wanted to. But, you know, with Eric Spoelstra, with that team, you know, that team has been to the finals a couple times, you know, in recent years. And, yeah, they might not have, you know, the superstar that they've had in the past. But, you know what? They still got some good players over there. You know, so they could at least, you know, get to the first round of the playoffs. But, you know, I don't really expect them to go very far because they're going to be playing the Cavs. So LeBron's 2 former teams going at it in the first round, potentially. All right, so let's get to the Mavericks-Kings game. So I did pick the Kings last night. Unfortunately, that did not go as planned. But the Mavericks, they played very well last night. They jumped out to a big lead. In the second quarter, I mean, that was really what made the difference. Because the game was going back and forth in the first quarter. But the Mavericks outscored the Kings in the second quarter 44-19. And that made the difference. The Kings did outscore the Mavericks in the second half. But again, it was too big of a deficit to overcome. Klay Thompson had 23 points last night. And what was interesting is, and I forgot about this, and, you know, that's on me for forgetting because, you know, there's always comments on it, is that last year in the play-in game against the Kings, when he was with the Warriors, he had 0 points. He went 0 of 10 from the field. He went, and, you know, 0 of 6 from 3. And, there, you know, the constant memes about it, constant comments on social media about it. So, you know, when he was being interviewed by Scott Van Pelt after the game, you know, he made a joke about it. You know, because this was like a house of horrors for him going back to last year. But he turned in a very good game. 23 points. He went 8 of 11 from the field, 5 of 7 from 3. Anthony Davis, not a great shooting night, but, you know, he was good from the free throw line. He did finish with 27 points. He went 9 of 23 from the field. 3 of 6 from 3, 9 rebounds. The Mavericks did dominate inside the paint against the Kings. And they got a big team. You know, they got a big team with Davis, with Lively, you know, with Gafford, who finished with 9 points. You know, it's a different style that they are playing right now as opposed to, you know, when they had Luka. And then P.J. Washington, he finished with 17 points for the Kings. DeMar DeRozan, 33 points. He went 13 of 28 from the field. He took a lot of shots. Zach LaVine had 20 points. Sabonis had 11. And then looking at the comparison of both teams, the Mavericks shot almost 50%. The Kings shot 46%. Mavericks were 50% from 3. Kings were 39% from 3. Mavericks were 92% from free throw line. Kings were 73%. Kings did out-rebound the Mavericks. I wanted to see if... but yeah, 18 turnovers for the Kings last night, so that wasn't great. But yeah, the Mavericks get the win, and they live to see another day. They will be playing the Grizzlies on Friday, which should be an interesting matchup. But they, all throughout the broadcast, they were talking about the focus of the Mavericks. Like, they were really focused. They, you know, they know all the noise that they've been hearing, and at least for one day, they were able to extend their season. And listen, Jerry Jones has got competition now in Dallas, because if this season continues on into the first round, if he's sitting in the seats in the arena, they showed Nico Harrison a handful of times, and that's what they like to do with the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, is to show his reactions to the game. Nico Harrison, even into next year, if he's in the arena, the cameras are going to be panned on him. That is not going away. And let's see what happens next year. I mean, obviously when we get there, when this team is healthy. But, at least for one night, they extended their season. And, I think they have a good chance of knocking off the Grizzlies, because the Grizzlies right now, they let go of their head coach. Maybe they're not as focused as the Mavericks are right now. I mean, I think the Grizzlies are a better team, but are they the better coach team at this point? So, those are the games that are on Friday. So you have the Hawks and the Heat, and then the Mavericks against the Grizzlies. So, but there was stuff to like about what you saw from the Mavericks. The Kings actually, they parted ways with Monty McNair, their GM, after 5 seasons. So, and also the Kings, another team, actually, they traded the Aaron Fox at the deadline. So, but yeah, they're going in a different direction there. As for the Hawks and the Heat, each game this season has been decided by double figures. They split the season series. Tyler Hero, very good numbers against Atlanta. He's averaging almost 25 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 6.8 assists. Trae Young is averaging 17 points, almost 12.5 assists, 26.5% from the three-point line in the 4 meetings against the Heat. So we'll see what happens in the rubber game in this play-in game on Friday. But let me know what you guys think about the games from last night. What were your guys' takeaways from them? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, we will talk about the first-round matchups that have officially been finalized. Which higher seed has a chance of being upset in the first round? So we'll get into that when we come back from our first break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to talk about the first-round matchups. Which higher seed has the best chance? Or what higher seeds have a chance of being upset in the first round? And we have some very good playoff series coming up. Really across the board. I mean, even if you look at the series that have been finalized in the Eastern Conference, like we're still waiting on, who the 2 seeds are going to be playing well, in the Eastern Conference, we're still waiting on that, or the 1 seeds. Sorry, who the Cavs are going to be playing, and we're still waiting on actually who the Thunder are going to play. So 1-2 seed and 1-1 seed are waiting on who they're playing. That's what I meant to say. But right now, with the series that have been finalized at the moment, you got the Pistons and the Knicks, which I have a little image here, a little background image for it. The Pacers and the Bucks, the Clippers and the Nuggets, the Lakers and the Timberwolves, you got the Warriors and the Rockets, and then you got the Magic and the Celtics. So, yeah, we're waiting on the other 2 series to be finalized. And I think you all know where I'm going with this. I think the Pistons, of the teams, of the series that we have in the first round, the Pistons have the best chance of pulling off an upset of every other team, every other lower seed, I think. I'll tell you what the second team would be in a second. I would say 2 Western Conference teams have a chance of knocking off a higher seed. But, yeah, so the Pistons. The Pistons, they've made the playoffs. What a turnaround. Cade Cunningham has been spectacular this season. They went 3-1 against the Knicks this year. And I don't think this series is going to be a cakewalk for the Knicks. I don't. I think the Knicks are going to have their hands full once again. I think there's pressure on the Knicks in this series. And you're starting to hear a lot of noise about Tom Thibodeau and his job security, which I think is a little ridiculous. Because look at where the Knicks were before him. And since he has become the head coach, they really turned it around. Now, it also has to do with the players that they have as well, but he's been a part of that culture change. And, I think maybe, next year, if there's even more of a regression, then, I shouldn't really say regression. I mean, they won 50 games. But let's see how this year goes first. Let's do that. Let's see how these playoffs go. If they get knocked down in the first round, I mean, you could have that conversation, but I think Tibbs should stay. The players love playing for him. Again, they won 50 games this year, so I don't think they should let him go. Now, I know you can make the argument that they could go in a different direction, but I don't think they should be getting rid of Tibbs. But yeah, the Knicks, last year, they were a more physical team. And they definitely lost some of that physicality. They definitely lost some of that grit from last year because of the subtractions of, even though you got a very good player who had a great season, who was an all-star in Karl Anthony Towns, trading Dante DiVincenzo, you did lose some of that grit. And I think the biggest loss, and I think we all can agree, the biggest loss is Isaiah Hartenstein. Losing him, I think, has really made an impact on this team. Had a huge impact on this team. Because he was a guy that could score and, he gets rebounds. Mitchell Robinson, he's not really a scorer for the Knicks. Plays good defense, gets rebounds, but he doesn't really score. Hartenstein can do all that. And, he left, got a good contract with OKC. Can't really fault him for that. But that has proven to be a loss that they really haven't been able to overcome. Now, do they have a chance here in this series to rewrite the wrong and, knock off the Pistons? Absolutely. Absolutely they do. Because they have one of the best players in the NBA in Jalen Brunson. You still got Josh Hart. We just talked about Karl Anthony Towns, who was an all-star this year along with Brunson. OG Anunoby has played really well this year. And, Mikal Bridges has been very inconsistent. He hasn't been the player that the Knicks were hoping for. But having said all that, Pistons could definitely win this series. They definitely can. Cade Cunningham could be the latest player to go to the Garden and just, terrorize the Knicks in the playoffs. Because let me tell you something. If Cade Cunningham goes off in this series against the Knicks, there's going to be chance similar to what we have seen with Trae Young. Cade Cunningham is going to be the new Trae Young. I could definitely see that happening. And I even think some of my friends who are Knicks fans could see that happening as well. Because he's a very good player. And he was good against the Knicks this year. So that is the one that this series here, I could definitely see it happening. Because just something, going through this whole year, something's different about this Knicks team. Something was different. Something's been off. But they have a chance to correct that in this series. So that's why I'm kind of, and also, again, Pistons went 3-1 against them. So that's why I'm kind of, leaning towards, hey, this could be the series where we see a 6 upsetting a 3 with the Eastern Conference. Now, a couple of other series that I wanted to talk about that I could definitely see there being a chance. The second one, I think, is the Warriors. I think the Warriors could definitely upset the Rockets. Now, I've told you guys I really have not watched the Rockets this year, but they have been a very good team. Number 2 seed in the Western Conference. Really, when it comes to that, what it comes down to is, you're going to hear it again, the experience. Steph Curry, how he's playing. You have playoff Jimmy now with Jimmy Butler, and they both combined for, if I do the math quickly, what they combined for? 75 points the other night against the Grizzlies. That's a recipe for success. And you still got Draymond Green there. They have that experience. This is an experienced Rockets team with some of the players they have. I mean, they do have playoff experience, some of the players that they have. They have some veteran players there as well. But, yeah, I think the Warriors have a very good chance of doing that. I think this is going to be a good series. I think this series could go to 6 or 7 games. I think you could see that because, the Warriors are a lower seed right now. The Rockets deserve to be in this position. So, we'll see what happens. Genwil Belandris says in the chat, how about Kerr's use of Kuminga? Yeah, no, Jonathan Kuminga, he's also been playing well. I actually, I'm leaning towards probably taking the Warriors in the series just because I like how they've been playing. Yeah, I do think that if we get performance, now we're not going to get performances from Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry simultaneously like that every night. There's going to be there might be some nights in this series where, Curry has an off night, Jimmy Butler steps up, and vice versa. And this could be one of the last times that we see Steph Curry go on this kind of a run here. Because I believe it or not, he's 37 years old, which I can't believe that. But he could still play. He could still shoot that basketball, man. I mean, those clutch threes he shot down the stretch against the Grizzlies, I mean, he still has it. I mean, that hasn't gone anywhere yet. And for Jimmy Butler, I mean, this could be one of his final runs too. You never know. So I do think that we could definitely see the Warriors pull off an upset there. And then I actually am going to say this. I think the Timberwolves could upset the Lakers. I don't think that's crazy to say, but I think they could do it. They got the star power. I think they have the size that could give the Lakers a tough time. With Gobert and Anthony Edwards, of course. The Lakers are a little undersized. Now, like what I was talking about with the Warriors with the combination of Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, well, then you also, on the other side, you have Luka Doncic and LeBron James. And those guys can go off and score 30 points apiece. So that's the kind of the equalizer there. But I do think that the Timberwolves match up well with the Lakers here. Also in the chat, Jen Will says, it'll be interesting. Obviously, two main defensive players in Brooks and Thompson. Van Vliet is no slouch either. And that's what I was talking about with the veteran players. You have Fred Van Vliet, who won a championship. Dylan Brooks is on the team. Green is okay, and Sagoon is all right as well. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. And like I said, if you weren't in the chat when I was saying this, I haven't really watched the Rockets this year. So this is going to be the first time I'm really getting, a close look at how this team, how this team can play. I did bring this up the other day. Steph Curry has never lost to the Rockets in the playoffs, although this is a very different Rockets team. So we'll see how it goes. But back to what I was saying, I do think the Timberwolves have a good chance as well. Now, is it going to happen? Who knows? I am also leaning towards taking the Lakers in that series. We'll do our picks for our first round, we'll do our first round picks tomorrow. And then I'll actually give you my finals prediction tomorrow. I'll do that as well. So, it's a little NBA predictions. Well, I mean, we've done that with the play-in games, but, we will get into that. He also said in the chat, I saw somewhere Steven Adams has been good for them. And General is also picking the Timberwolves in 6. All right, I like that pick. I like it. I mean, you got to remember this team also. They made a deep playoff run last year. Now they don't have Karl Anthony Towns. You got Randall and DiVincenzo now in that trade, but I mean, I could definitely see them upsetting the Lakers here. But we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you think has the best chance of being upset? The 4 and 5 seeds. I mean, it's not really. I don't really call those upsets. I think the teams are kind of even in those games. They could go either way. Pacers knocked off the Bucks last year. They're playing them again in the first round. There will be no Damian Lillard. And then on the other side, you got the Nuggets and the Clippers, which I think could be a very good series. That series could go 7 games. But we'll see what happens. So before we go to break, I just wanted to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining. Between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers, we appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day. So any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. A couple more comments from Jen Will before we go to break. He said Reed has stepped up for them. He's no cap, but he's doing well. Okay, that's good to know. We'll keep an eye on that for the playoff series coming up on Saturday. So when we come back from our next break, we're going to transition over to football for the remainder of the show. We're going to talk about the Giants working out some quarterback prospects, including Shedeur Sanders. I'll talk about what Joe Shane had to say in his press conference. So we will get into all that when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about the Giants working out some quarterback prospects, including Shedeur Sanders, and what that could potentially mean. So, Shedeur Sanders, private workout, Jalen Milroe, as well from Alabama, Shedeur Sanders from Colorado, and Tyler Show from Louisville. Now, Shedeur Sanders is being projected as a first-round pick. Could slide from the way things are going. From what we've been hearing as of right now, it seems like he could slide a little bit in the first round. I still think he will go in the first round. Jalen Milroe, likely a day 2 pick. Tyler Show, he could be a second-round pick, or possibly a day 1 guy. Be taken towards the end of the first round. We'll see. Giants have the number 3 pick and the number 34th pick in the draft. The second pick in the second round. So, potentially, you could see the Giants maybe take best player available, and then they could trade back into the first round and take a quarterback that they like. Like, maybe they take Jackson Dart. Maybe if Shedeur Sanders really does slide, late into the first round, you see the Giants trade back in and draft him, which I actually would love that if the Giants were able to do that. But we'll have to see. I think really, this, I think, doesn't really mean a whole lot. I think this, it does mean that the Giants at some point will take a quarterback. But, from watching a little bit of Joe Schoen's press conference, he talked about the Giants quarterback room, and he said that, it's not mandatory for them to take a quarterback. They like the quarterback room where it's at right now. Because, at the beginning of the offseason, it was just Tommy DeVito. But now you added Russell Wilson, you added Jameis Winston. So, for me, I am an advocate for the Giants taking best player available at 3. Do not trade out of that pick. I mean, unless you're getting obviously if you're getting a significant offer, you consider it. But the Giants, I think, are in a position where you need a generational talent with this pick. And it has to be the right player. And the 2 guys that are at the top of everybody's draft board, other than quarterbacks, well, even with the quarterbacks are not the top players. It is Abdul Carter and it is Travis Hunter. And I think from what we've been hearing, it seems like the Browns are going to go and take Travis Hunter with the second pick. And that's who I want. And Joe Schoen even said that if they were to get Travis Hunter, he would play both positions. He would play corner and he would play a receiver. They would mix in, some packages for him. I mean, he didn't say that, but, you figure they would mix in some packages for him. And the Giants have 3 receivers already at the top of the depth chart. Now, obviously, Travis Hunter, could slide in and, he could, surpass perhaps, Darius Slayton on the depth chart, even though they gave Darius Slayton a lot of money. So, if that happened, that shows you how Darius Slayton is playing. But, Slayton hopefully will play well, with this contract. He's going to be getting a lot of moon balls next year. So, hopefully he puts up some big numbers along with Malik Neighbors. But, yeah, you got Malik Neighbors, you got Darius Slayton, you got Wan'Dale Robinson. You add Travis Hunter to that receiver room, along with adding him to that corner room. Because the Giants secondary, it could be better next year. They addressed it, and, we'll see what they do with the draft. But, yeah, if they get Travis Hunter with their first pick, he adds more to those 2 rooms because of his ability to play both positions. And then Abdul Carter, listen, the Giants, the one thing that I have said that I like about this team a lot is their defensive line. And, at times last year, they were able to get after the quarterback, which is something that they have struggled to do for years. And adding a guy like Abdul Carter with what you already have in Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, unless they maybe trade Thibodeau, because I could definitely see them doing that if they were to draft Carter, but you add him to that, and you got yourself a really good defensive line. So, and this Giants team would really be built on defense and I think playing turnover-free football because you improve the secondary. I mean, the linebackers aren't, superstars, but they're serviceable. And then you got this pass rush. And this Giants defense, the expectation would be them to be a top 10 defense next year. So, I want Travis Hunter, but if we got Abdul Carter, can't be upset about it. But that's where I'm at right now. It does seem like now it can all be a smokescreen, right? They could be saying all these things. Oh, we would use Travis Hunter with, he would play both positions. Abdul Carter. And they end up taking a quarterback. They say taking a quarterback is not, mandatory. We don't have to do that with the third pick, and they take one anyways. I do think they're going to wait on taking a quarterback. I think you will see them take him, whether it's, they trade back with their second round pick, they get into the first round, or you see them maybe take one in the third round, whatever the case may be. The Giants will walk away from this draft taking a quarterback. They will. And whether that's the franchise guy or not, who knows? But really, for this current regime, it is all about winning football games next year. And I'm sorry, but a rookie quarterback is not going to do that. Now, had this regime had gotten more time, because really, from what John Mara has said, this is it. If they don't win this year, they're gone. So, they're not going to take a rookie quarterback with their third pick. They are going to take best player available because they have the opportunity to do that. That will help. Whoever they pick will help them win games immediately next year. And then you address the quarterback position at some point later in the draft. And let them sit behind Russell Wilson and Jameis and take in as much knowledge as they can from these two guys. And you just hope that, you could kind of find your franchise guy maybe, potentially, and you're winning football games next year. General in the chat says, how about the Saints trading for Hooker? You know what? I honestly, I don't think that's a bad idea. Because I think he has been a part of some trade rumors, and now, with the Saints and Derek Carr, and who knows what's going to happen with him. We talked about the injury news the other day. That could be a possibility. Now, I don't know what the compensation would be. I don't know what the Saints would have to give up. I mean, maybe we see what the Cowboys gave up for Joe Milton, so I'm guessing it would be something like that, maybe. Like a late round pick. Because Jared Goff's the guy in Detroit, and he's not slowing down anytime soon. So yeah, and then the Saints are in a weird spot, so maybe they do that. I guess we could see how the draft plays out, because if Shedeur Sanders ends up falling to 9, does that make the Saints say, hey, let's take him? Because, we don't know what we're going to be doing at quarterback if Carr's going to be out. And then there's also the chance that Aaron Rodgers could end up on the Saints, maybe. That opens up the door for that. So I do like that. We'll see if that could happen, because the Saints need a quarterback right now if Derek Carr ends up going down, unless, like I've said, if they like Spencer Rattler and they want to roll it out with him. But yeah, back to the Giants though with the quarterbacks. Like I said, they want to get a fair assessment on guys. They want to, get as much knowledge, on these prospects. Because again, if Shedeur Sanders falls to the late first round, if I'm the Giants, I'm trading back in to get him. If they're able to do that. Because then, you're in a perfect spot. You drafted a generational talent and you got the quarterback in the first round. I think everybody would be happy with that. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I think if Shedeur Sanders, falls out of the top 3, you're going to see a team take him at some point. Whether it's the Steelers, we talked about the Saints. The Raiders could. I know some people talk about the Jets. I don't know if the Jets are. I think Jets are taking best player available. I think the Raiders are going to take best player available. I think they're going to end up with Genti. They need a running back. And, they extended Geno Smith. Now, had they not have traded for Geno Smith and extended him, then I probably would have said, yeah, that could be it. I mean, it still could, but I think they're looking for best player available, and I think Genti is that. Also in the chat, Genwell says, can Aints even do A-Rod? I mean, it's tough because, Kellen Moore is going to be coaching for the very first time as a head coach. And now you bring in Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know how that relationship would work. I think, I mean, they'd be able to coexist. I mean, he was able to do it with LaFleur. Now, I mean, with the Saints, the defense is getting older. But, I mean, I don't think the offense is bad. They brought back Brandon Cooks. Hopefully Chris Olave could stay healthy. You got Rashid Shaheed, who was very good at the start of last year before he got hurt. You still have Alvin Kamara. They still got playmakers on that side of the ball. And like I said, the defense is getting older. But, yeah, you still got to give the respect to some of these guys. Cameron Jordan. Mainly, So, and it's not a tough division. The Saints won 9 games in 2023. And they got off to a good start. It's just then, guys got hurt. So I feel like that could work. That might not be a bad spot for him if he did end up there. It's just we'd have to see how that relationship with Kellen Moore and him would play out. But, yeah, that's the football talk there. So the Giants, look, I don't expect them to take a quarterback with their first-round pick. I expect them to take a quarterback later. They're taking best player available. And if they don't, I'm not going to be too thrilled about it, but you know what, hey, they need a franchise quarterback at some point. Because Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, that's not the long-term answer. I mean, they might end up being with the Giants for 1 year. But also, Joe Shane and Brian Dable could be out after this year, so we'll see. One more comment from Genwell before we go to break. Would you splash on Jalen Ramsey if you were the Giants? So, yes, Jalen Ramsey has been given permission. Well, actually, I don't know if he's been given permission, but either way, Dolphins are going to be looking to trade him this offseason. I mean, I don't know how much you'd have to give up. He's an older player now. I feel like the Giants might be okay in the secondary. They signed Adenabo from the Saints. And you got some of the other young players, Drew Phillips and Deontay Banks. I think they might be good. But you know what? I mean, I would take him if he's cheap. But I think also the contract might be an issue too. But yeah, let me know what you guys think though about the Giants. What do you think they're going to do with their first round pick? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our next break, we will talk about Nick Chubb and where he could potentially sign. He's still on the free agent market, so we will get into that when we come back. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the fourth part of the show, we are now going to get into talking about Nick Chubb and where he could potentially sign. He's still one of the big-name free agents left on the market. But yeah, he's still out there. Also, while I was in break, General also said it could be a fourth or fifth pick would be enough, or fourth round pick would be enough. He said it's a salary. Yeah, so I don't think it's going to be the Giants. I think they're going to maybe trade him to someone that's in a better position, that has a chance to be competitive this year. We're talking about Jalen Ramsey. So we'll see what happens. I still think he could play, right? I mean, he's not the same corner he once was back during the Saxonville days, but I think he can come in and still be a good corner for a team that's in a position to win. But back to Nick Chubb. So Chubb has been a free agent since March. Has not really drawn much interest, at least publicly. He is coming off of a down year. Coming back from the gruesome knee injury that he suffered back in week 2 of the 2023 season. But it was great to see him out there. But you could tell, he was rusty. He was rusty. And, he really lacked explosiveness. There was a couple of times where there was a burst, but, not nearly the player that he was before the injury. So, I'm hoping that, maybe another year removed from it, we see a better version of Nick Chubb, wherever that may be, whether he goes back to Cleveland or he goes elsewhere. I'm hoping we see that, because I really do like Nick Chubb. He is I would say he's one of my favorite players in the league. And this is what he said recently in an Instagram caption. He said, "They've already wrote my ending when I'm just getting started." There's workout videos of him on Instagram. So, he's still staying in shape. 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons with the Browns. Played 8 games last year. Actually, before breaking his foot, I forgot about that. He did that, I think, against the Chiefs late in the year. But yeah, not a lot of public interest from him. Now, teams could sign him, and that's what Jen Will is saying in the chat as well. They could sign him after the draft if they fail to address their running back position. And yeah, Jen Will agrees. I think either way, Chubb signs after the draft. So I guess that's what it's looking like. We could see Chubb sign with the team after the draft. I think he will end up on a team. Now, where he could end up, I did mention the Steelers. The Steelers could be a possibility. Stays within the division. They haven't really. I think they're gonna. I think they will be a team that drafts a running back. They did bring in Kenneth Gainwell, so maybe not. But if they don't, could bring in Chubb. Familiar with the division. The Chargers. They did bring in Najee Harris. So who knows? Maybe you get an AFC North combination of so you went from the Ravens backfield to now, a mix of the Browns and the Steelers. You get Chubb and you get Najee Harris. The Cowboys brought in a couple of running backs in Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams, and they still got some other running backs on the roster too, but maybe, they bring in Chubb. They take a chance on him. Raiders could also be a possibility. I did say they could take Gentry. That's what I believe. They did bring in Mostert, but, there's a chance there. The Broncos, I think, are a team. I think the Broncos will definitely take a running back at some point. They will take a running back in the draft, but Chubb could be a potential fit there. And then the other thing is the Browns. The other team is the Browns. The Browns, they could bring back. They could bring back Chubb. That's really it. I don't know who else. Maybe. I don't know. The Chiefs maybe. With Pacheco struggling. They brought back Kareem Hunt though. I don't think so. Bengals brought back P. Ryan to go along with Chase Brown. The Vikings brought back Aaron Jones. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't mind him being on the Giants. They have Tyrone Tracy, but, add another running back to that room. veteran presence there, I'd be okay with that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know who else. I'm trying to think of who else could use him. I don't really. I think every team is. I think for the most part, every team is kind of set at the running back position. I mean, I'm thinking right now about all the teams. Yeah, no, he'll find a team. So, I'm guessing, General, you are a Chargers fan, because you said if we didn't sign Najee, would Chubb be viable? I guess, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they probably would get him on a cheap deal. I mean, look at what happened with J.K. Dobbins. They brought him in, and, he dealt with a lot of injuries, and he had a very good year. And, you put Chubb back there behind that offensive line. I mean, maybe that gets him going, So he says, I get it'll be run heavy with us, but having 3 running backs on good money is a bit too much. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. But it's just unfortunate what happened with Nick Chubb. It's just he was one of the best running backs in the league. And talk about consistency. You know what you're getting out of Nick Chubb each and every year. His production. And, the Browns have had a lot of tough years, but he's been there. He's been the model of consistency. And the Browns started to turn things around. They did win a playoff game. Unfortunately, he was not part of the Joe Flacco magic carpet ride. He was hurt. But yeah, I'm hoping that he finds his way on a team and he gets it going next year and he looks like the Nick Chubb that we know he can be. General also said, I'm still fairly high on Kamani Vidal. Yes, I forgot about him. I think he's wearing Eckler's number now. He's wearing number 30. So you got him. They don't have Dobbins anymore, right? And I think they got rid of both. They got rid of Dobbins and they got rid of Gus Edwards. I think they got rid of both of them. Well, they didn't get rid of Dobbins. I think he was just a free agent. I think Gus Edwards they cut. So it's going to be interesting, but I do agree, like you said before, Jen Will, that we'll go through the draft, and then we'll kind of get a good idea of, what teams want to do after the draft. Look, this is a very rich running back class. So I think you're going to see a lot of teams that need running backs. They're going to address it in the draft. And then I guess maybe for the select few that don't, or maybe not like, or are not satisfied with what they have, you could see teams reaching out to Nick Chubb and maybe bring him in. And maybe he doesn't sign after the draft. Maybe we see a scenario where, he doesn't get signed until we get to next season and, you see guys getting hurt and then a team brings him in, which I hope not. I really hope someone brings him in Chubb. And he's still got something left. I'm a Nick Chubb believer. So, but let me know what you guys think. Where do you think Chubb potentially ends up? Let me know in the comments. Again, still one of the big names out there. There's him, there's Keenan Allen, there's Amari Cooper, and then of course there is Aaron Rodgers, who we really haven't talked about recently. Really haven't talked about him. Because we're still waiting. And hopefully he makes a decision soon. I've been saying that constantly. It hasn't happened yet. But we want to know. What is Aaron Rodgers thinking? I think he wants to play. I mean, I've been going back and forth. I think he's going to retire, and then, he goes to the Jets and, says he wants to play. So he wants to play. It's got to be the right fit. Jen Will also in the chat. I think my priority for the draft is 1, secondary, 2, receiver, 3, O-line, 4, D-line. I don't really disagree with that. I think maybe I would swap O-line and D-line. I know probably because you mean the interior of the O-line, because you have the tackles. You got Slater and you drafted Joe Alt last year. So yeah, the interior of the O-line. I could also see a scenario where the Chargers maybe, we talked about the rich running back class. Maybe they take one in the later rounds and add, that to the running back room with Najee Harris. I know you said they have Kamani Vidal, so maybe, yeah, they don't. But I could see them doing that because, Harbaugh loves to run the football. So, receiver, yeah, I think you could see them potentially adding a receiver as well. They did bring back Mike Williams, and Ladd McConkey had a very good rookie season. So maybe you might see them use a late-round pick on... oh, yeah, that's right. You do have Becton. Yeah, they signed Becton on the interior. So, yeah, maybe... So, yeah, maybe you do... I think D-line, maybe you see them take somebody. I think that could be something they address. Because they did... they let go of Joey Bosa. I think you need someone else to add to that defensive line. So, we'll see. We'll see. So, we are going to take our final break of the show now, and then when we come back, we will do our post-free agency rankings for the AFC South. So, for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the final part of the show, we are now going to do our AFC South Power Rankings post-free agency. Also, while I was going to break, General was talking about the center for the Chargers. He says, I just don't like Bozeman, and I get center is one of the hardest roles out there, but being ranked 16 or bottom 16 as center is not good. I was not aware of the ranking of the Chargers center. So, yeah, they could potentially, that could be a position they potentially address. So, we'll see what happens there. But let's talk about the AFC South now, shall we? So, when it comes to these rankings, I mean, it's a little bit easier to kind of rank them, I guess. Not a lot of major moves. At least looking at them right now, not a ton of major moves from these teams. But let's kind of let's get into it. So right now, I'd probably still rank the Titans last. They have made moves, handful of moves, like I said. A lot of that has to do with the quarterback position. Now things are going to change after the draft because most likely they're going to take Cam Ward, unless, again, they shock us. But this team was not good last year. Still got a good defense. I mean, they signed a former Seahawks defensive lineman, Draymond Jones. They brought back Sebastian Joseph Day for the defensive line. They brought in Cody Barton over from the from the Broncos, which I think was a good move. They signed Van Jefferson, Kevin Zeitler for the offense. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're going to be, even with the rookie quarterback, I don't think they're going to win a ton of games. I think, Cam Ward, there's going to be some growing pains if, that ends up being the guy. I mean, if it's Will Levis again, we saw how Will Levis played last year. He was not good. So, you still got Calvin Ridley there, Tony Pollard, who ran for over 1,000 yards last year. Oh, yeah, they also signed Dan Moore Jr. from the Steelers, which a lot of people are not excited about that contract. 4 years, $82 million. But, yeah, right now, they're a team that needs a quarterback. And I think until they figure that out, I'm still going to put them last. I'm going to put the Jaguars at 3. The Jaguars, what they did this offseason, they... Actually, do I have the moves that they... Well, they let go of Christian Kirk. I know that. He's now with the Texans, and we'll talk about the Texans in a little bit. But the Jaguars, well, they did let go of Evan Ingram as well. Obviously, new head coach now with Liam Cohen, which I think the offense will show improvement, right, with Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen did very well with Baker Mayfield, so hopefully he does well with Trevor Lawrence. For the Jaguars, they signed Jordan Lewis, who was with the Cowboys. They signed Eric Murray. They signed a couple of offensive linemen. They brought in De'Ami Brown, Hunter Long they signed, Johnny Munt, a couple of tight ends there, a couple of tackles. So not a lot of major moves for the Jags. This roster has a lot of work to do, too. This draft is going to be huge. I'm curious to see what they do with their first pick. Now, you got guys you could build around. Brian Thomas Jr., you got the defensive line with Josh Hines-Allen, Trevor Lawrence. There are pieces in place there. But this roster, they really it needs a jolt. And General in the chat says Jacksonville isn't a real place. He also says, I didn't even see this, don't diss Will Levis, Mayo man. Oh, man. The amount of times I saw that commercial last year, it made me lose my my liking for Mayo on my sandwiches, because I drafted him as my third quarterback in my 2-quarterback league, taking a chance on him, thought he could maybe be decent, and he was not decent. He wasn't good. He was not good last year, and he was a meme like every single week. Every week, something new happened with him. But yeah, back to Jacksonville. They need to have a good draft. And we'll see what they do, and then maybe, if I like how they did, maybe I'll rank them higher when we do if I do a post draft ranking of all the teams. But yeah, nothing major from the Jaguars, but I'm going to put them ahead of the Titans. 2, I have the Colts. I like the additions to the secondary. They added Charvarius Ward and Cameron Bynum. The defense, again, that's another defense that needs improvement. On the offensive side, they didn't really add a ton. Khalil Herbert they added to back up Jonathan Taylor. Their quarterback position, we'll see. They bring in Daniel Jones. I think you will see Daniel Jones at some point in the 2025 season, which would not be good for Anthony Richardson. And I thought Anthony Richardson, and I've said this, I thought Anthony Richardson played well, at times after he got benched. When he came back in, he looked like a different player. So maybe this upcoming year, with the pressure of them bringing in Daniel Jones, he goes out there and he has a very good year. Because, we see what he could do when, he throws the ball 60 yards down the field. It's exciting, but he struggles with the little things. And the talent is there. It's just, he's got to put it together, and he kind of failed to do that last year. And that was kind of his rookie year, because he really didn't play his rookie year because he got hurt. But yeah, the Colts. I mean, look, they've hovered around 500 the last 2 years. 9-8 the previous year with Gardner Minshew. Last year they were 8-9. So I'm gonna put them at 2. And then I got the Texans at 1. The Texans did bring in Christian Kirk. He's kind of the Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell replacement because we're probably not going to see Tank Dell, unfortunately. They actually brought over Justin Watson from the Chiefs. They brought in Braxton Berrios as well to add to that receiver room. They signed Cam Robinson to replace Laremy Tunsil. Still don't understand that trade. They brought in Laken Tomlinson for the offensive line. Offensive line, I think, is a position the Texans should address in this draft because that was a weakness of the team last year. I think at some point maybe you'll see them take a receiver. Maybe later. Defensively, I mean, look, I think they have one of the better defenses in the league. So they can only enhance it. I think there's a couple of areas that they can address. Like I said, the offensive line, you could add another playmaker. I think they're good on the defensive line. Maybe you add somebody to the secondary. Linebackers maybe. But Texans are in a good spot. They're going to be one of the better teams in the AFC. I mean, they're not going to be up there with Baltimore and Kansas City. Because they lost to those teams last year. Well, again, next year's a new year. But I mean, Baltimore destroyed them on Christmas, man. Ugh. That was not how. I was hoping for better games on Christmas. I really was, but we didn't get that. But yeah, no, they need C.J. Stroud to step up next year, get better protection, look like the rookie year C.J. Stroud and not the sophomore C.J. Stroud. But Stroud's the guy, and they dealt with a lot last year with the injuries to their receiving core. But yeah, I could see that that's a sensitive topic for you, Genwell. I apologize for that, for being a Chargers fan. It is a sensitive topic. But hey, they lost in the following round to the Chiefs, another team that you probably don't like. But yeah, the Texans, to me, that's the team to beat. So, I got them at 1. So I got the Titans at 4, Jaguars 3, Colts 2, Texans 1. That's where I'm at right now. Jen Will also said before that, Colts last year also overcomplicate things like Bears with Caleb. Yeah. I mean, I think now Caleb with better coaching, he's gonna look like a different quarterback. And listen, I think Shane Steichen is a good coach. I mean, look at what they did with Gardner Minshew. They went 9-8. They just missed the playoffs. Just missed it by losing to the Texans. And they finished 8-9 last year. So hopefully, they turn it around. He says it'll be interesting after sacking or letting go of their offensive coordinator. Yeah, we'll see. We will see. But that is pretty much it for the show today. Again, let me know what you guys think about the AFC post rankings or AFC South post free agency rankings. So tomorrow we will cover the AFC West. So Jen, make sure to tune in tomorrow and see where I rank the Chargers. But I appreciate the comments today from you. Again, tune in tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We're on every Monday through Friday. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well that go on throughout the day. Get their other perspectives on things. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to both YouTube channels as well. Also, if you can't watch us, if you miss the show, there's no problem. You could go to wherever you get your podcast. You can look us up on Spotify, Apple Music, etc., and you will be able to listen to us on the go. If you're cooking, a meal, if you're getting ready to watch the draft, and you're making some wings. I don't know. Do we do that like we do with the Super Bowl? Yeah, yeah, of course we do. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I think when I watched the draft at my friend's house last year, I think he ordered Wingstop. I think. I might be wrong though, but Yeah, so appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows. We'll be back again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Sports Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.